Which authors or series do influence your work?
Well, when I was leaving Kienbaum and going to Continental, I was working in the HR department, and there was one guy, and he introduced the learning organization by Peter Senge to us, and we had a team of 5-6 people in that department. And he said, we need to read this book, and maybe we can draw some conclusions out of this book for our work here in Continental, in the tire division. And then I took that book, I bought it, I took it on vacation when we were in Denmark, sometime in the early 90s, 95, 96. And I was so intrigued and I was so enthusiastic about this book because Senge didn't invent something new, but he put different elements together in a way that I thought this is a very good approach, how you can work with organizations and how to give them a certain direction, what they could do in their development. And so that really fired me up, and I said, I want to learn a little bit more about this. It took a while until I got back to this, because at Conti I did different kinds of work in different capacities. But the last 5 years I was at Conti, I came to the US, and I was the sales manager and managing director of our sales office of one division. And that was a good opportunity to be in the US on the East Coast. That was not very far away from MIT. So I visited several courses with Peter Senge. I had a 1-year education with Bill Isaacs and Peter Garrett on dialogue, change, and leadership. And I also met Klaus Otto Schama in a 1-week workshop in Nova Scotia in Canada. And I got to know his Theory U approach and the presencing approach, which also left some impression with me, and I'm still working with this. Currently I'm applying this in a huge leadership journey in Pakistan, which goes for 1 year, and the basic concept for this leadership journey is the Theory U. So I'm still working with this. So these aspects or these approaches, they influenced my work, but on the left and on the right there's so many different other aspects. What I try to do is to combine all these different approaches and to make one common concept out of that. This is which is explainable, which makes sense to companies, and which is not so complex like sometimes these concepts come across. That's what I'm trying to do, kind of translator of these concepts into reality, into implementation, or in a real company situation.
If you would give yourself a symbol out of a fairy tale, who would you be?
Well, I like to be the eagle that is flying about the landscape and has a very sharp view on what is going on, and then has to be very fast in going to the places the eagle has to be, on the one hand. On the other hand, our family animal is the owl. The wise and the clever, smart owl that is watching the situation and is sitting there not doing a lot but thinking and observing, a big deal, and then understanding what's really going on and taking some action from there. So if you want to have these animals, these would be the 2 animals I could cope with or I could deal with. I would choose.
If you remember a movie, which movie would symbolize most of the work you do?
There is one movie I saw 3 or 4 times. Let me just think what the name was. Death of the Dead Poet. That was a movie. First of all, there's a great actor. I forgot the name, but he is just great. And the entire story was about how to learn and how to really understand what's going on in the world, and not learn and just read books and to recapitalize and just to spit it out again and to get a mark for this, but to really be interested, to be in the middle of the topics that are dealing with. And I think one part was what is about literature, and there was Walt Whitman and a poem from him, and there were different approaches how you could read his poems, and it was displayed in a way that really touched me, and it also made me cry, because this was just such a good approach of a teacher to integrate their students or his students into what it really meant to deal with stuff and to learn something really at the bottom of the essence, and not just to create some knowledge or to stack some knowledge in a big barrel and then to spit it out if it's asked for. The approach to understand the world and to deal with the world and to put yourself in relationship to the world, that was displayed in that movie, and I liked it very much.
How does this movie influence your work within cogitamus?
Well, part of my training and also my university lecturing is pretty much influenced by that, because I don't think just to get knowledge is the most important. It is important, and you have to have a certain set of knowledge in different areas, no question about that. But then you have to deal with that knowledge. You have to relate that, and you have to have the net or the mesh of this part of knowledge, this part, and you will discover that all these different elements they fit together one way or the other. And to have that systemic approach, and not just to lecture this, but to help people to discover this. Which also involves your emotions, not only your intellect, but also your emotions, your interest, your childish curiosity. I want to work with this, and if that really happens, that is also a very happy moment for me in lecturing or in training, if that really happens, which doesn't always happen, but from time to time, and that makes me happy, and I can also see in the eyes of the students or the people I'm training, then something happened. And if something happens, some aha or a ba, like you say in Asia, then that is great. And that is the way how this movie influenced also my teaching and also my thinking, big time.
You mentioned the program you do at the moment. It's about a training, leadership journey within Asia. Can you tell me a bit more about this?
Yes, that was funny. That is working for GIZ, the Society for International Cooperation in Germany. And one Sunday night I got a call from a guy I know there. He also used to work with Otto Scharmer in the Elias project. And he knew that I know Theory U and all that stuff. And he said, you know what, I have a problem. I just came back from my vacation and I had staffed a certain project in Pakistan. And the project manager, he just stepped away and he said he cannot do it. He has a different other tasks to do. So I'm there without a project manager. And I would like to ask you whether you would be interested in that task. I said, in general, I would be very much interested, because that's pretty much at the core of what I do in my work, transformation work, leadership work, and so on. So he gave me the different dates that had been fixed already during the next year, and these dates fit in my calendar quite perfectly. I just had to adjust a few little meetings, which was no problem. So this is how I got this job. I didn't have to go somewhere and to acquire this. I just got it. It found me. And maybe that is a good indication that there is something going on in the field, which is also a nice feeling if you find this kind of work. And this is how it all started. And I had some contact with this particular leadership group in GIZ the year before in November. I just was interested in a study they did, and they sent me the study, and the lady who sent that, she said, you know what, we sat together at a table when Otto Scharmer was in Berlin, and we talked with each other about leadership and different other aspects. So she remembered me, and unfortunately I didn't remember her. But then she sent me the study and also invited me for a meeting with this group, with different people who work for the GIZ in that leadership arena. And so I got to know them a little bit more, and I said, this is the kind of work I would like to do more. On the one hand, it's more international, and on the other hand, they're working with values or with an understanding of concepts that are very, very close to my understanding. So I said that makes a lot of sense to work with them together. And then all of a sudden there was that phone call, and this is how I got this job. We started 2 weeks ago. We had the first module to start the entire program and to get to know the participants and so on. And the next module will be in June in Karachi in South Pakistan, and we want to explore the outside world there. Mm-hmm. Then the next step, and I'm really looking forward to that, is in Himalaya.
That sounds so great.
In August. And there we want to, after exploring the outside world, we want to go into the inside world and want to learn a little bit more about our personalities, about our own personal call of all the participants. We also have some kind of a vision quest or a solo walk for several hours in the Himalaya. And on the top of the world, you're looking into yourself and you're trying to find what is really, really important for me, what is essential. And then we have a lot of space to discuss that and to work that through. And hopefully some of these ideas and these inspirations, they might go along with these leaders in their sectors. And then after this, there will be 2 other modules to do some prototyping about the work they want to do and to discuss that with the others. And then, of course, they have to implement that in their own work, in their work streams, in their organizations, and also to involve the others who are working with them, and hopefully even the other sectors outside of their responsibility, so that there is even a transformation not only in their own institution but in the country. In a way that would be the ultimate goal that we could reach, and we will see how far we get.
Can you share a story of the last module? What touched you? What happened?
Yeah, there was, when you go as a German person, you have some kind of international experience, but I was not so long time experienced in the East. I did some lecturing in Tehran in Iran, so I also had contact with the Islamic world, which in some ways is different, in some other ways it's pretty similar. So it is not so distant like it sometimes looks like. So I was a little bit prepared, but still to go for a 1-year journey, it's not so easy, whether all the different ideas you have or the concepts you would like to deal with, whether they would work. And there was one thing, when we try to deal with personality, I try to use one simple approach by David Cantor. He developed that from family therapy work, which is called the 4-player model. And this is simple on the one hand, and it is very, very deeply rooted in practice and in human being life. And therefore I try to use that in different ways. And we introduced that to our participants. And first of all, it was I just developed that on the board, not only showing PowerPoints. And that was one approach. And then I tried to incorporate these ideas, and so people had to position themselves. 4-player model means you have basically 4 different aspects of leadership, or 4 different players. Just to make it short, there is somebody who moves, the mover, there is the follower, there's the opponent, and there's the bystander. And I don't want to explain the entire model, but this is a model which is kind of a diamond, and the charm of this is you have one axis here, people who go in a certain direction who say this is not the right direction, we have to correct that a little bit, and we have people who follow or who bystand, who ask questions, who inquire a certain thing. And this diamond with different dimensions and with a kind of a balance in the middle, where you have different perspectives all together and they struggle about the right approach. This is something I like very much, and we also could introduce that to them. But later on, it was not just an intellectual exercise. We let them sit or stand in the different corners. What they think they are they feel most comfortable with. Are they movers? Are they normally opponents? Are they followers? Or are they bystanders who watch a certain situation and help to get a perspective into this? So they put themselves in a certain corner, and then we also changed afterwards, and we said, what if you go here? Or what if you stand in this area? How do you feel there? Does it help you? Does it give you strength? Is it feeling comfortable for you, or is that an unusual situation? And even in one situation, there had been two guys who had been here in the opponent situation, and then one of my colleagues, she said, why don't you just move to the mover situation? And you could really see in their face, the face relaxed, they felt much more comfortable. Now it looked like they're now in the right position. They're not always opposing a certain situation. Now they had what they really wanted, to move in a certain direction, and they felt home in one way or the other. So these are situations where you really think, well, it worked. You didn't know that before, and you can only know it if you really try it, and you can fail, and you have to be prepared to fail. Well, then we would have said, let's do something else. But it worked, and obviously people had been very enthusiastic about it, and they asked several questions, and they tried to work it out. We did several exercises afterwards, so also to implement that a little bit more, and to show the power of this model, which you can also use for communication flows and all the other things. So it really worked, and I was very happy about that. That in a different cultural context, a different religious context, people had been ready to go for this experiment, and they also got something out of it for themselves, and that was fantastic.